This person is in trouble because of you. They are about to drown, and you do not yet see how high the water has risen around them. You assumed distance meant safety. You believed that if you stayed quiet, nothing would change. That time itself would soften the edges and settle what felt heavy. But time does not heal what is ignored, and silence does not protect what is breaking. I am speaking now because what is unfolding is not small, and what you carry is not accidental. I've watched every moment you hesitated. I saw the internal debate, the justifications that felt reasonable, the quiet promises you made to yourself that you would act later, when things were clearer, calmer, more certain. But clarity rarely comes before obedience. Most often, clarity follows it. You were never meant to understand everything before you moved. You were meant to trust me enough to move while you still did not. You felt the pull the first time their name crossed your mind unexpectedly. It came with weight. It lingered longer than ordinary thoughts. You tried to distract yourself, but it returned. You prayed quickly, hoping the burden would lift. Instead, it pressed deeper. That was not coincidence. That was not imagination. That was me inviting you into something holy and urgent. This person has been standing in a place of quiet desperation. Not the kind that cries out loudly or asks openly for help, but the kind that grows in secrecy. The kind that convinces a person they must manage alone. They have been replaying their failures, magnifying their mistakes, shrinking their worth, until they no longer recognize themselves. They tell themselves they should be stronger by now. They tell themselves they have exhausted grace. They tell themselves they are the problem. You do not see how often they sit with thoughts they would never speak aloud. You do not hear the inner accusations that greet them every morning and follow them into the night. You do not feel the exhaustion of pretending everything is fine when something inside is unraveling. But I see it all. I see the cracks widening. I see the weight pressing down, and I see how close they are to believing the lie that escape is easier than endurance. I did not reveal this to you to frighten you. I revealed it because love responds. When I allow you to sense urgency, it is not to burden you, but to awaken you. What you carry right now is not guilt, it is responsibility, and responsibility is never given lightly. I entrusted this to you because I knew your heart could bear it. You have been afraid of interfering, afraid of crossing a boundary, afraid of misreading the moment. But love is not passive, and care is not neutral. When you see someone near the edge and choose distance to preserve comfort, that distance becomes a decision. You were not asked to control the outcome. You were asked to show up. This person does not need perfection from you. They do not need eloquent speeches or flawless timing. They need sincerity. They need someone willing to step into the mess without trying to fix it immediately. They need someone who will sit with discomfort rather than avoid it. They need someone who will see them without judgment and remind them they still matter. You worry about saying the wrong thing, but you underestimate the power of simply being present. Silence can wound, but presence can heal even when words fall short. A single moment of genuine care can interrupt a cycle of despair. A single expression of concern can challenge the lie that no one notices. I know you fear rejection. I know you fear being misunderstood. I know you fear opening a door you do not know how to close. But love has always involved risk. I risked rejection when I reached for you. I risked pain when I pursued you in your own brokenness. I did not wait for you to be ready. I came when you were weak. You remember more than you admit. You remember moments when someone reached out to you unexpectedly, when you were carrying more than you showed. You remember how it felt to be seen without explanation. You remember how one conversation shifted something inside you, even if everything did not change at once. That was never random. That was me working through willing hearts. Now I ask you to become that willing heart. This person is not beyond hope, but hope is fragile when it is starved of connection. Isolation amplifies pain. Silence magnifies shame. And the longer someone believes they must endure alone, the harder it becomes to accept help when it finally arrives. You were meant to interrupt that isolation before it hardened into resignation. You keep waiting for certainty, but certainty would remove the need for faith. I am not asking you to act trustingly. I am asking you to act trustingly. I am with you in this. I am not sending you alone. I will guide your words. I will steady your heart. I will carry what is too heavy for you. Do not assume someone else will step in. Do not assume the moment will repeat itself. Moments like this are delicate. They require courage because they matter. And while I am sovereign, I still honor obedience. I work through those who respond. This person has been quietly questioning their worth. They wonder if their life has meaning beyond survival. They wonder if their presence makes a difference to anyone. They wonder if their absence would even be noticed. These thoughts do not always announce themselves dramatically. They settle slowly, like fog dulling perspective until everything feels distant and unreal. Your voice, familiar, grounded, human, was meant to cut through that fog, not with pressure, not with demands, with truth spoken gently, with concern expressed honestly, with a reminder that they are not invisible. You think your role is small because you see yourself as ordinary, but ordinary obedience in critical moments carries extraordinary weight. I do not choose based on status or eloquence. I choose based on availability. I choose those willing to say yes when it would be easier to stay silent. I know you feel unqualified. I know you are aware of your own flaws, your own unfinished healing. But broken vessels still carry living water. Your imperfections do not disqualify you. They make you relatable. You do not need to stand above them. You need to stand with them. You are not responsible for their choices. You are not responsible for saving them by your own strength. You are responsible for responding to the nudge I placed within you. The rest belongs to me. What you are sensing now, the urgency, the weight, the discomfort, is not meant to linger endlessly. It is meant to move you. Obedience releases the burden. Delay compounds it. This is not the time to overthink. This is the time to act with humility and compassion. Reach out. Ask how they truly are and be prepared to listen without rushing to respond. Let them speak freely. Let silence exist if it needs to. Let tears come if they come. Do not try to control the moment. Trust me to work within it. You may not see immediate change. You may not witness a dramatic turnaround. But seeds planted in love often grow unseen before they break the surface. What matters is that you planted them. And know this, even if they do not open up fully, even if they deflect or minimize, your obedience still matters. You have no idea how often a single act of kindness replays in someone's mind during their darkest hours. You have no idea how powerful it is to know someone cared enough to try. I am not speaking to you to accuse you. I am speaking to you because I believe in what I placed inside you. I trust your heart. I trust your compassion. And I trust that you can move even while you are afraid. Fear does not disqualify obedience. It often accompanies it. Do not allow comfort to convince you that silence is wisdom. Do not allow delay to disguise itself as patience. There are moments when love must interrupt. This is one of them. You are closer than you think to being the answer to a prayer they stopped praying out loud. You are closer than you realize to being the reminder that keeps them holding on. You are closer than you know to becoming a turning point. I am already working in them. I am already softening places you cannot see. I am already preparing their heart to receive what you will offer. But I will not force your hand. Love never coerces. Love invites. You must understand this clearly. The way you treat people is never insignificant. Every interaction leaves a mark, whether you intend it or not. You do not move through lives unnoticed. You do not speak words that vanish once they leave your mouth. You do not act without consequence simply because you did not mean harm. Intention does not erase impact. This is why I warn you to be careful, because carelessness has caused more damage than deliberate cruelty ever has. You often believe harm only occurs through obvious wrongdoing, but I see deeper. Harm happens when you speak too quickly and listen too little. Harm happens when you assume motives without understanding context. Harm happens when you correct without considering timing, when you confront without humility, when you withdraw without explanation. Harm happens when you prioritize being right over being righteous. I hold you accountable not only for what you do, but for how you do it. Every person you encounter carries an internal history you cannot access. You see behavior, but I see wounds. You see resistance, but I see fear. You see silence, but I see exhaustion. When you respond harshly to what you do not understand, you often deepen what is already broken. That is why restraint is not weakness. Restraint is wisdom. You are given influence whether you ask for it or not. Influence exists wherever words are heard and actions are observed. Parents have influence. Leaders have influence. Friends have influence. Even strangers can carry influence for a moment. Influence is power, and power misused injures. This is why I judge not only actions but posture, not only decisions but demeanor. You must be careful because some people are surviving, not thriving. They are functioning on minimal strength. They are enduring quietly. They are holding themselves together through routine, obligation, and habit, not because they are whole, but because collapse feels unsafe. When you speak sharply to such a person, you may become the final weight they did not have strength to carry. You will not see it happen, but you will have contributed to it. Do not comfort yourself with the belief that people should be tougher. Toughness is not holiness. Endurance is not proof of health. Many endure simply because they have learned that no one comes when they ask for help. When you reinforce that belief through indifference or harshness, you become part of the reason people stop reaching out. Words shape internal worlds. I created the universe with words, and human beings, made in my image, also create environments through speech. Words can stabilize or destabilize. They can clarify or confuse. They can strengthen or erode. This is why I tell you that life and death are in the power of the tongue, not metaphorically, practically. You must also be careful because harm does not require volume. Quiet dismissal wounds deeply. Sarcasm disguised as humor undermines trust. Repeated criticism without affirmation erodes identity. Withholding kindness as leverage manipulates rather than teaches. None of these appear dramatic, but all of them accumulate damage. You often justify harshness by calling it honesty. But honesty without wisdom is recklessness. Truth delivered without love is not truth as I intended. It is information used without regard for consequence. I do not speak merely to be correct. I speak to restore. If your words do not aim toward restoration, examine their purpose. I have never authorized you to use truth as a weapon. Correction is meant to guide, not humiliate. Discipline is meant to protect, not dominate. Authority is meant to serve, not to satisfy ego. When you forget this, you misuse what I entrusted to you. You must be careful because people remember how they were treated long after they forget what was said. Emotional memory lasts longer than verbal content. Someone may forget your argument but remember your tone. They may forget your reasoning but remember how small they felt. These memories shape how they approach future relationships, including their willingness to trust me. I will remind you of David, not to condemn him, but to instruct you. David was chosen, anointed, and favored. He knew my voice. He experienced my deliverance. Yet when he acted without regard for another's life, the consequences extended far beyond his private decision. When he took Bathsheba and orchestrated Uriah's death, he did not only violate moral law, he abused power. He disregarded dignity. He treated a human life as expendable to protect his own reputation. David repented, and I forgave him. But forgiveness did not erase the harm. A child died. A household fractured. Violence multiplied within his family. Trust eroded. The sword did not depart from his house. This was not cruelty on my part. It was reality. Harm creates ripples that forgiveness does not magically undo. Understand this clearly. Repentance restores relationship with me, but it does not cancel responsibility toward those you have hurt. This is why you must be careful before you cause harm, not after. You may assume that because you are forgiven, those you hurt should move on quickly. That assumption is pride. Healing takes time. Trust rebuilds slowly. Some wounds change people permanently. Forgiveness does not require forgetting, and reconciliation does not always restore closeness. These are the realities harm introduces. You must be careful because trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. Trust is formed through consistency, honesty, and safety. When you betray it, even unintentionally, people begin to guard themselves. They withhold openness. They calculate risk. They protect what was once freely given. This changes relationships in ways you cannot always reverse. Be especially careful with those who are vulnerable. Children, those under your authority, those dependent on you, those seeking guidance. Your words shape their understanding of worth, safety, and love. What you normalize in their presence becomes part of their internal framework. Harshness teaches fear. Inconsistency teaches anxiety. Gentleness teaches security. You must also be careful not to harm through absence. Neglect communicates disinterest. Silence communicates rejection. Withdrawal without explanation creates confusion and self-blame. People often assume fault when given no information. If you must create distance, do so with clarity and respect. Ambiguity wounds unnecessarily. Anger is another area where harm multiplies quickly. Anger itself is not sin, but unrestrained anger often becomes destructive. In anger, you speak faster than you think and reveal what discipline usually conceals. Learn to pause before responding. You are not obligated to respond immediately. Delayed response is often wiser than immediate reaction. You must also be careful not to harm through judgment. When you assign motives without evidence, you misrepresent reality. When you label people based on a single failure, you reduce them unjustly. I do not define people by their worst moment. Neither should you. Some of the greatest harm is done by those who believe they are acting righteously. Certainty can blind you. Moral confidence can silence compassion. This is why humility is essential. Humility reminds you that you are also capable of error, blind spots, and harm. You are not required to tolerate abuse, but you are required to remain humane. Boundaries do not require cruelty. Correction does not require humiliation. Separation does not require contempt. Even when firmness is necessary, dignity must remain. You must be careful because every person you harm becomes someone who must heal. Healing takes energy, time, and often assistance. When you wound others unnecessarily, you burden them with work they did not choose. This is not something I overlook. I am not asking you to live in fear of making mistakes. I am asking you to live in awareness. Awareness that people are not obstacles. Awareness that relationships are not disposable. Awareness that love requires responsibility. When you fail, and you will return quickly, acknowledge harm honestly. Apologize without defensiveness. Do not minimize pain because it makes you uncomfortable. Repair where possible. Humility restores what pride destroys. I am shaping you to reflect me accurately. I am gentle, but I am also precise. I do not crush what is already weak. I do not discard what is struggling. I correct firmly, but I protect dignity. If you claim to follow me, your treatment of others must reflect that same balance. Be careful, not because people are fragile beyond hope, but because they are valuable beyond measure. Every life you touch is a life I formed deliberately. Treat them accordingly. This is not optional. This is obedience. And when you walk with care, restraint, and wisdom, you do not merely avoid harm. You become someone through whom healing is possible. Amen.